to deliberate on the topic.
Thank you, Chairman, sir. Dr. Dhanpadji Agarwal, my big brother, is always very helpful to understand difficult issues on WTO. I remember Dr. Sen, my professor, my teacher, my guide, Professor Ratan Khasnapish, Professor Mukherjee, he was also my teacher in St. Xavier's. So in a way, I'm very fortunate to be here amongst all my seniors, more learned persons, and among my friends like Subarno. Though I would like to debate with him on the other issues he mentioned, but one issue that has been revealed through his deliberations that Brexit has made even people like Suparno Mitra vulnerable. So today's topic is really very important and urgent one to discuss on. I would just continue where Professor Mukherjee probably left as a student. I'll try to continue with the conclusions or at least the hypothesis that he had made. When you talk about the European Union, we should also remember that Euro, it was developed, or rather it was created to counter dollar supremacy, to counter supremacy of 301, and also I would say the Dunkel draft. Professor Dunkel, who was a French, as you know, for WTO was drafted mainly to have a better say in the global trade and in the hegemony of US. The entire WTO initiative was taken by leaders in Europe, mostly by Germans and French. So Dunkel, by birth, he was a Frenchman. And I remember at one point of time when we were college students, we opposed Dunkel draft and burnt many of the effigies of Dunkel. Having said that, we must also remember WTO was formed as an institution where at least you have got the democratic rights unlike World Banks and IMF and all those institutions of on the yesteryears. Now, Dr. Chen has already told us the main reason why Britain voted for the exit from European Union. He's touched upon on the migration issue, the immigrants issue, which was definitely and is definitely a major issue in Europe. And I'm not going into the politics behind it. But I would like to touch upon other issues, apart from the immigration issues, which are really a major issue and which has been highlighted as one of the most important issues in the Brexit. For the last 2-3 days, I was just scanning through different reports on Brexit and different causes, what prompted the British, at least majority of the British voters to vote for Brexit or vote for exit. And whether they voted consciously or unconsciously, whether they did good or bad, it is their choice. We have to respect that. Let us not discuss on this issue. It is a reality that 52% of the voters, they have voted for the exit. So whether it is good or bad, fine. It's a game of the democracy, and you have to accept and respect those decisions. Now I found that apart from these migration and immigration issues, there are at least 4 different issues which prompted probably the majority British voters to vote for exit. One issue was they thought European Union threatened British supremacy and British sovereignty. We cannot ignore the fact that Britain is the fifth largest economy of the world. They have the nuclear power and they are one of the members of the Security Council. But in European Union, probably they did not get the proper treatment which they deserved. They were taken for granted. That probably was one of the major reasons why a large number of Britishers thought that no one should take us for granted. And they revolted against it. Second reason, which was mostly cited by leftists, when I say leftist, I mean very radical left. The reason they say European Union is anti-democratic and beyond reform, and I quote, it offers most hospitable ecosystem in the developed world for the monopoly capital, tax evading elites, and organized crime. This is the criticism of the leftists, I would say radical leftists of Europe. They thought that European Union basically has given a very good platform for the monopoly capital to exploit more. And you cannot ignore this observation if you see the data which has come out from Europe. The third point which I have seen that just actually, I would say, had influenced the voters, they said that UK or the United Kingdom, they were burdened with lots of regulations from European Union, and they lost their capacity to evolve or make any rules and regulation on their own. So very unnecessary regulations are there, which are not required. I'm not going into the details of those regulations which I have seen they have mentioned. Very silly kind of regulations. So we have been strangled with regulations of the European Union which are not relevant. So why should we bother about this? So that could be the third reason which I thought that I should share with you. And the fourth one, apart from what Dr. Sen has said, was definitely the economic issues, because UK contributed around $19 billion per year to European Union budget. The part of it used to come back to UK, but most of the voters there thought that yes, 19 billion is a huge amount of money, and instead of giving it to European Union as a support to their budget, we should be given free hand to utilize this 19 billion for the development of our own country. So that is one of the major factors. So these are some of the factors probably which prompted those voters who thought that, okay, it is high time that we should go out of European Union. Obviously, instigations from what Professor Mukherjee has said from US was obviously there. Because, as you have seen in the last few years, there were two major developments which are taking place. One initiative was from Europe. The initiative was mainly, as we know it, is called Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. It was mainly Europe-centric and European initiative. The other initiative was taken by the Americans, along with the Japanese. This is Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP. Now, America wanted that TPP should be the major partnership and it should rule. And they wanted to bypass WTO. And if you see the different rules and regulations which has been mentioned in TPP, these are more stringent, and it obviously will give lots of power to their proposers, in this case, United States of America. So they wanted, for whatever reason, that they wanted that other players, obviously their main competitors were euro to dollar, they should not come up with any other alternative. So they wanted that they should have the hegemony on the global market, which they still have. And I don't know, Russia, China and others who are trying to develop that Euro-Asian, the trade zone, whether it succeeds or not. But at least this is a game which USA has definitely won. Now, what could be the consequence of Britain's exit and what Britain can do? Let us not forget that Britain is still the fifth largest economy in the world. And they have got the veto power in UN, they have got the nuclear power, and all sort of, and until date probably we consider London as the financial capital of the world. Now, Britain, as per my understanding is, Britain most probably would like to revive the Commonwealth of Nations. The Commonwealth of Nations, if you remember, it was formed in 1949 officially, and it still has 53 members, and the member countries are placed in all the 6 different continents across the globe. These 53 countries are there. And all the countries together has got a population of 2.2 billion, almost 220 crore people. And the economic size of this Commonwealth nations is around 18% of the global economy, not bad. One important aspect of this is these Commonwealth nations, which are mostly the previous colonies of the Britain, they speak in the same language, at least the bureaucracy and the elites, they speak in the same language, English. They have got the same cultural history. They have got the same economic or colonial history. So in that way, it is more homogeneous probably than the European Union, where Britain from day one was not feeling very comfortable with. So to my understanding, Europe, after exit from the European Union, Britain most probably would like to revive the Commonwealth nations, where India is one of the members, and there is a possibility of forming a Commonwealth free trade zone. Commonwealth free trade zone. And if it occurs, or if it happens, then obviously Indian businessmen and Indian business community will have market access to other 52 countries across the different parts of the world. That could be a good opportunity for us. And let us not forget, Commonwealth member states, they do not consider other members as foreign nations. That is why they call the representatives of the government as the High Commissioner, not ambassadors. There is a basic difference. Ambassadors represent the head of the state, and the High Commissioner represents head of the country. Right? So they do not consider other members of the Commonwealth nations as foreign nations. They consider we are all same till now. Right? So these are some of the aspects. Maybe that also. I'm not aware of that, but that could be the reality. But in general, what I'm saying, this is the system. Now, what India can learn from this? What could be the learning for us? One learning could be, I have just jotted down 3, 4. One learning could be too much of centralization and standardization may be counterproductive. Of late, we find that the centralization of rules and regulations has become the trend. So in Europe also the decisions are taken in Brussels and everyone had to follow. So in India also, as Professor Mukherjee has rightly said yesterday in another television talk show also, I mentioned the same thing. When pay commission you declare from Delhi, you never bother to discuss this with your chief ministers in different states. And you never know, you never discuss and do not suggest them what to do because you unilaterally take a decision. So these are something which is not good for a federal structure. And too much of centralization may create a situation where different states may feel like that, okay, this is high time to revolt against center. So this is why, as Professor Mukherjee has said, that there could be a possibility of balkanization of India. I'm not going to that extent at this stage, but it is not good for the federal structure of the country. Second, aspirations of different states should be respected and taken into account. Unless we respect different states' aspirations of different people, aspirations of different small groups, and take everyone for granted, then probably, as Professor Mukherjee has said, that we may see that there could be lots of exits from the Union of India, if not from European Union. I have a suggestion, I do not know whether you'll accept or not, to avoid ambiguity and to strengthen the federal structure of the country. We deal with three different lists: central list, the concurrent list, the state list. And all the problem starts with the concurrent list. Right? How much power should center enjoy, how much power the state enjoy. So for the sake of delegation and for the sake of federal structure, let the concurrent list be transferred to the states. And the center should focus on some of the basic issues as per the US model. The center mainly rely on. And I personally believe that center should think twice before implementing GST at this stage. Because in UK, if you see the experience of UK, is not good. They had increased the VAT from 17% to 20% recently. That could be one of the reasons of this exit. And after GST, there will be huge inflation, especially for commodities, which we call it essential commodities. I'm not sure whether the government would be able to tackle this kind of situation in India. So GST could be very counterproductive. It will kill the sovereign rights of the different states to impose tax on their own. This is anti-federal structure by nature, and GST has got no relation with GDP growth. There is a very wrong perception given in many press that if you implement GST, then there will be growth in GDP. Logically, theoretically, empirically, nowhere it has happened. And if you want an empirical proof, I will say it is counterproductive. Last year in Malaysia, I'm just mentioning because this is part of that.
But it's very important, we will keep it.
Exactly. We need to have a detailed discussion. Malaysia, they had implemented GST, their GDP growth has come down. The last point, the big bourgeois of India, who had very strong linkage with the British Raj, probably they will have a better time now because of revival of Commonwealth nations, which I personally believe is the best option that Britain has at this point. Thank you.